this is Herb from Big Twin Life, and today we're going to talk about the air assist that I've designed for the M1 laser. So this is the device that we've created here. It is a little bracket with a nozzle and an air input that fits underneath the default metal dust cover. And we decided to keep that because in my own use of the product I've noticed how dirty that thing gets, and I was just concerned about anything less robust than the original metal. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and show you what it looks like installed. As you can see, the default metal dust cover is there. You can see the nozzle and you can see the air input. All of that goes into the existing hardware location point, so you don't have to do anything to modify your machine. To install this, you're going to have to take the bottom cover out, but and you're going to have to flip this thing over, but before you do that, I would recommend that you use some painter's tape to hold the lid closed, so when you're flipping the machine it doesn't fly open. Now once you do flip it over, you're going to have to take that metal dust cover off, and it's two little Phillips head screws that hold that in behind these metal dowels. And you're going to take your adapter plate and you're going to go ahead and insert a hose. Now if you'll look here, you notice we put a loop before it goes back to its other mounting point, and I already had mounted the hose, so I didn't kind of show you how that routing goes, but nonetheless it attaches to the top of the head with some zip ties and then loops down into the housing, and that's so that when the laser moves up and down it doesn't bind the hose and it doesn't pop the hose out of the intake because you're not giving it enough slack. This is how the adapter plate fits onto the bottom of the head underneath the dust cover. Next thing you do is you take the dust cover itself and you align it to the piece that we've made there. Make sure that the top of the cover is facing towards you, as well as the nozzle end is facing towards you. So don't want to put this on backwards. Now what I do is I go ahead and get the screws started somewhat. I get it lined up, put the screws in and screw them in so they pass through the plastic plate and they just barely stick up, just so you can feel it. And that way when you go and put it down back onto the head, you can line up the screws without damaging anything, and then you just screw them down and secure it in place. And this is what it should look like, the finished product, once you have it installed. Now you're more than likely going to have to move that head while you're doing this. Just remember to put it back in its home position before you flip it over, and when you flip it, turn it so that the head always stays down. That way the head doesn't fly across with gravity when you flip it the wrong way. Now I have shown this picture here just so you can see a little bit about how I routed it. The first thing I did is I put the head all the way to the right and all the way to the part closest to the front, and that way I knew that I would have enough of the hose. And I brought the hose to the center of the top plate, of the back of the top plate, and I attached it with Gorilla Tape, leaving a little bit of slack but not too much, because if you leave too much when the head is in a more relaxed position, that hose may drop down on your project. So don't leave too much slack, but make sure you have enough room to have the head all the way in its farthest right and frontmost position. Mount the hose in the center, and then I run it across, and I just use zip ties to put it to the wire snake there, and the wire chain, and the reason I do that is because that part of the chain doesn't move. And then I put another one a little bit further up, still where it doesn't move, and anchored the hose again. And all these are loose anchors, they're not tight anchors. And then for my purposes, I drilled a hole in the machine and ran the tube outside, but you may not want to do that. That's up to you. One more final note I'd like to say is all of this is done at your own risk. I make no warranties, I make no claims. This thing works for me. It's made out of PETG, so it should handle heat pretty well. I'm going to eventually make these out of aluminum, but for now I think a lot of people want this part, and I'm going to make the aluminum with the exact same so you can upgrade to a metal bracket when you're ready to do that. And this is Herb from Big Twin Life, and I hope this can help you. Thanks.